Here we are again after another Ohio State win. They successfully accomplished their mission 8 straight times. We are still trying to accomplish our mission of less than 15 minutes. It's another week. I'm Steven, that's Andrew, and that's Stefan, of us trying to do that. Andrew, biggest takeaway from Ohio State's 38-14 win over Penn State?
They didn't fall into the trap of matchup game. We have to do what we did against Texas. They avoided that pitfall. And I wrote about this after the game. Stefan was kind of mentioning before this game, Terry Smith at Penn State was kind of like, the team that wins the rushing battle is going to win the game. And he was saying a lot of the talking points that, you hear during Ohio State-Michigan week, which a lot of people have been very critical of Ryan Day of. And you know what? Okay, maybe it was bait, maybe it wasn't. Probably not, but you never know. Ohio State avoided that. And guess what? They won the rushing battle today. They won the rushing battle.
So he was right.
And they ran the ball 32 times, and I think Sayan had 23 passes. And you know why they won the rushing battle? Because they threw the ball at the times that they should throw the ball, and they ran the ball at the times that they should run the ball. This is the game plan for when you go to Ann Arbor in a few weeks. You have 4 games left in the regular season, 3 of them before you play Michigan. There is one team left. There was one team left on this regular season schedule who had a host of NFL players on it, at least, because Purdue stinks, Rutgers stinks, UCLA stinks. They're not that good.
To be fair, UCLA beat the team that they just beat.
Yeah, and then they also lost 55-6 to Indiana. The magic has kind of run out.
Indiana's good, man.
The magic is, Indiana's very good. I think they're very, very good. We'll leave it at that. Indiana is awesome, but UCLA and Rutgers and Purdue, the teams that they're going to play are just not very good. This was the chance today to block NFL players. This was the chance today to go up running passing routes and running a passing skeleton against an NFL secondary. Penn State's offense, not that good. But their offensive line, pretty good. Their offensive line, I thought, had a pretty decent day for Penn State. Penn State showed up today and said, we have to win a very particular way. We have to run the ball, which is why they ran that toss play 4 times today. Student body left, student body right. They pulled everybody. They got out on space. That's what they tried to do. They said, hey, Ethan Grunkmeyer, our quarterback who's a second-year guy making his second start, we can't really trust him with anything yet. Make simple throws. And if the first or second read's not there, chuck it into the seats and we'll live to fight another down. Hey, we're going to play conservatively. We're going to win the battle at the line of scrimmage. We're going to try to force a turnover, maybe in the other team's own end, and keep the game close. Does that sound familiar to you guys for maybe what has happened these last couple of years with Ohio State and another team that maybe wears winged helmets? It should. Ohio State did not fall into that trap because you know what they did? They said, you know what, we're going to throw it. We're going to air this thing out. They threw the ball deep to Carnell Tate. They threw the ball deep to Jeremiah Smith. And they got ahead by using their talent. They did not fall into that, oh, God, well, they are, I know they're 3-4, but they just had a bye week. And Ryan Day said it was a matchup game earlier in the week, and Penn State's got a lot of talent. They did not do the thing that they did against Michigan last year, first off, but really even against Texas this year in the first game of the season, where they kind of held everything back. They didn't give their quarterback too much. And I know we're advanced now. I know that's 2 months ago, and Julian Sayin has proven himself probably to be the best quarterback in college football so far this year. But Ohio State had every kind of off-ramp to say, let's take it easy, let's play a little cautious, let's trust our defense, and they didn't do it. And that should make people, I think, feel pretty good about where this team's mindset is at going into Ann Arbor in a couple of weeks. Because we could talk about this for months, how physical and dominating that game has been for Ohio State, and more accurately for what Michigan has done. But Ohio State's talent has never been the problem in that game. It's always the mindset. It's always the emotional side of this. And today, they had a bunch of opportunities like that, and they didn't do it. They didn't step on the rake. They didn't fall into a trap that they didn't need to. The closest thing you could say was that they ran the ball to start that 2-minute drill in their own end with C.J. Donaldson, and he fumbled the ball, which has been very rare for him this year and for Ohio State this year. But outside of that, man, what else could you want out of a game plan? And if they do this, if they show up playing like this with this mentality, where Ryan Day talked about going into the halftime pissed off and they were up by 3 and it felt like they were down by 21, they do this, they're breaking the streak against Michigan. That's the game plan.
Yeah, I almost don't have a problem with that because it's either that or a screen pass just to get the
clock moving.
just to get them going. So it's only bad because TJ Donaldson fumbled. Stefan, biggest takeaway.
I think we might have to admit, specifically you and I, Steven, might have to admit that the football coaches know more about football than us. Because there was a lot of times during the first half of the regular season for Ohio State, especially toward the back end, like the Illinois-Wisconsin kind of stretch, especially the Illinois game, where we're sitting there kind of thinking to ourselves, all this tinkering and formations and different things that they're doing, are they trying too much? And when they get to the playoff, will they go back to their fastball in a way that we saw against Oregon and Tennessee in the playoff last year, right? Are they going to lean on their receivers and just air it out and say, that's your fastball, stick with it? And we're sitting there asking ourselves, what is the point of these I formation and these 3 tight ends and, having a fullback lined up? Like, what's the point of all this if it's not working? A, there was a lot of times where it wasn't necessarily working when they were doing it. And B, if that's not part of what your fastball is. And they were going down that opening drive against Penn State, and Steven, you turned to me and you were like, why are they, they're substituting after every play? And they were, substituting. It wasn't like, hey, Max Clear, you come out, Will Kazmarek, you go in. It was like 2 tight ends come in, 2 receivers come out. Okay, now we're going to take out 4 guys and put 4 different guys in. They were substituting. And Steven looks at me, he's like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And I'm like, Steven, it's working.
I'm allowed to still hate it even if it's working.
Yeah. You can still hate it even if it's working. But it got me thinking, them tinkering wasn't like, hey, let's see what works. We can throw out what doesn't. We can keep in what does. but we know what our fastball is. And now it's got me thinking, what if that makes the fastball even faster? What if they just went from Kyle Hendricks' 90-mile-per-hour fastball to Aroldis Chapman tossing 105-mile-per-hour fastball because his slider's so good, right? And there's other pitches to mix into it. Jim Knowles spent 3 years working here and every practice going up against a Ryan Day offense. Now that's being, play calls by Brian Hartline, but it's still the same offense. And sure, maybe Ohio State threw in, and I think Ryan Day talked about this postgame, you throw in some wrinkles knowing that the guy on the other side might know some of your tendencies, but you can't be predictable no matter who you face. If the guy upstairs in the booth today, Jim Knowles, didn't know what to predict or what to expect, Wink Martindale's not going to. Other defensive coordinators they faced in the playoff, they're going to struggle to because they went 5 wide and on the same drive went I formation. It is sickening, and it kind of feels like you're bashing your head into a wall when it's going over and over again and it's not working like we saw in the first part of the season. But what if instead of tinkering to throw it out, they were tinkering for it to be good? And I know that that sounds ridiculous to say because it's no duh. Why would they do something just to throw it out? It is a process, and I think when you're watching, when you're a fan, you're probably thinking to yourself, getting impatient. You want Jeremiah Smith to put up Heisman numbers and this and that. It's just wait. Because Ohio State has a luxury that few teams do, right? We're recording this, Miami just lost, right? We saw Oregon lose earlier this year to Indiana. Now, Indiana was down 3-0 to Maryland, as Gillis felt the need to point out to us. Indiana's got the lead by the time we're recording out, and maybe Indiana loses the game. I'm going to hate that I said any of this. But, there's few teams that can tinker without risk of losing. Often, right? There's teams that you can go into, when Indiana played a non-conference game, you can tinker with some things, stuff like that. But Ohio State was tinkering against Illinois on the road, a ranked team, and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And it's a scary idea. If Jim Knowles didn't know what to predict, who was going to? All right, Jim Knowles spent 3 years every day seeing it. The defensive coordinators they face in the playoff are going to spend 2 weeks watching it on film. Yeah. There's a big difference there. So if this offense isn't predictable, and they know they still have that fastball, that combination makes that fastball even deadlier. Those plays down the field of Jeremiah Smith, Cardinal Tate, they're always going to be there for Ohio State. But they're especially going to be there when everything else is working too. This, I felt was their best all-around offensive performance. Because even against Illinois and Wisconsin, you could point to the running game and be this wasn't great. Interior offensive line, probably not great today, yet everything was working on offense. I think it was the best all-around effort on offense because they could call anything and get yards on it.
Yeah, there's also a chess match to it, right? You're trying to figure it out, and I felt like this was the most in rhythm Brian Hartline's been all game with
no
both
doubt.
the passing and the running. Because even Ryan Day said it, like it takes time sometimes to get the running game going, and they got it going in the second half. And to your point, yeah, part of it was because of they threw the ball first, but there's also you got to work it out. And Bo Jackson, I told someone, hey, can Bo get it 20 times a day? And they said absolutely not. I was like, can he get it 15 times a day? And they said, yeah, we can make that happen. He got it 13 times and he turned it into 81 yards, and 51 of those yards came on an explosive run. But that's the run game. Push, 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 push. Home run, push, 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 home run. But that's all they need because then it's a threat to be a problem.
You want a time check?
Yeah, I do.
I didn't start a timer, but I knew around what time we started. You got about 4 minutes.
Okay, that's enough
we got
time. Oh, so that's
we got an eternity.
That's not an eternity. That's 4 minute drill. Very quick answer. Name the order of the top 3 teams in the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday. And I understand Indiana is currently playing football right now. That's not the point. Assuming the 3 teams who are undefeated still are undefeated, what is the order of the college football playoff rankings? Very quick answer. Andrew.
Ohio State, Indiana, A&M.
Indiana, Ohio State, A&M.
That's what I posed the question.
Yeah.
At the buzzer, because I think there's 3 different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Because your way is the resumes aren't that crazy off from each other. I think Indiana's got the best because they've got the road win against a team who's still in the top 10.
Yeah.
And that's the best win. Okay, fine. That's one resume point.
Better comparison win with Ohio State. They beat the snot out of Illinois. Ohio State won 34-16.
One also played at home, one played on the road.
Sure, right.
And so that's part of the amount. And so that almost equals itself out a little bit.
Sure.
The Ohio State case, I think, is as simple as this. If everything is equal, if these teams got on a neutral field, who would you pick? And I think everybody would pick Ohio State.
Ohio State by a lot.
Right, but it's not with both teams,
Yeah.
probably. And that's, I think, their best case. I think Indiana's best case is like, we have to reward what we've seen and not just the hypotheticals. And then what we have seen is Kirk Cignetti went into a top 5 game and won by 10 points on the road when they probably should have won by more if he doesn't throw an interception in that game. And then they have wasted everybody else they've played. It's not Ohio State's fault that their resume fell apart. It's not their fault that Texas did not live up to the hype. It's not their fault that Penn State did not live up to the hype. They have lived up to the hype. Now, Texas, I think beating Vanderbilt today probably helps Ohio State's case again because now it's a resume point they can use.
Georgia's losing.
And Georgia's losing. The SEC, man, all that mid in that conference, it's mid. I think Texas A&M's resume isn't as great in a world where probably the best thing they've done so far is beat LSU at LSU, but they're not good anymore. Yeah, but Notre Dame, I think, is still working back into it right now. They're I think Notre Dame's going to be in the top 12, but like I think they're still working it. They're just like Texas, they're still working it right now. So
It's similar to Ohio State's resume, where it's like you got a good win against Notre Dame, even if Notre Dame maybe like you could compare Notre Dame to Texas, and you can compare LSU to Penn State. Of like, I don't think LSU's bottomed out. Yeah, maybe they have.
I mean, if you fired your coach, you've bottomed out. Okay, and both of you essentially lost a big game at home.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So, but right. So it's that's a little more equal. But I think it's going to come down to that. If anybody poses that question of like if they all played each other, who would you pick to win the football game? Because I think Ohio State has looked like the most complete team in college football. They have the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. They arguably have the best defensive player in college football in Caleb Downs, who also made a play today. He also had a targeting call that they didn't call targeting, and even he knows that.
They may have the best defensive player in college football, and it's arguably not Caleb Downs.
That's my other point is they came into the season with the best offense and the best defensive player, and now 2 other stars have emerged with Carnell Tate and Arvell Reese, right? And with what Caden Curry's doing, and that's but that's like the final trump card is they also might have the best quarterback in college football who might win the Heisman Trophy if he can just beat his freaking rival. So it's what matters most to the committee. I think, and the reason why it's important to ask this question now is there are only 3 types of rankings that matter to Ohio State and its fan base. It's the first one because it tells us how the committee is going to view things this season. It's if Ohio State loses because it's like, okay, what's your wiggle room? How do they view you even though you've lost? And then the last one because that's obviously what their ranking is going to be. We all think if Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship game, they're going to be the number 1 seed. I think you change that math a little bit if Texas A&M is number 1. On Saturday, because then you add in that butt of if the SEC is not undefeated, right? Yeah. If Indiana's number 1, then like, all right, whoever wins the Big Ten championship, right? But it's but also there's a resume thinking point for the rest of the conversation, especially if Ohio State loses at some point, even if we're not expecting that to happen. And so this is the fourth year in a row or something like that where Ohio State has left the Penn State game, and the next thing that happens is the following Tuesday, the college football playoff rankings come out. In 2023, they left that game. It's like, okay, this is the number one team in college football. They're going to be number one on Tuesday. Check. Last year, they're not the number one team in the country, and the only reason why is because they lost to the number one team in the country. Check. Okay, what does it mean this year? I think this one's a little bit more complicated than the last 2 years because we don't really know where the committee's head is at, but we'll find that out on Tuesday. And when we do, we'll text it to you, 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And why is that important? Because we don't know if YouTube TV is going to have ESPN by Tuesday, so we might only learn it through the text. So it's a great time to get the text. I'm telling you, it's a great time to get the text.
I just realized I might have a problem for work on Tuesday.
I got Fubo for the next 5 days, so I'm good on that result. But listen, go listen to Buckeye Talk. We're going to continue to have a long conversation about this because I think this is it now, right? This is their offering. 8-0, awesome defense, awesome offense, Heisman-level quarterback, and a coordinator who's elite, and another one who is clearly starting to figure it out and find his groove here. Is that enough to be the number one seed on Tuesday? Or could another resume, when you have three teams who I think are above the pack right now, I think they all have a good case. Which way does the committee lean? That's what we're trying to find out on Tuesday, 614-350-3315. Go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. We're actually leaving the field right now to go live. So see you there. Stefan, Andrew, Steven. See you.